Welcome to PSGL F7 round 12 here in Singapore at the Marina Bay Street Circuit. My name is Felix. I'm going to be your commentator tonight. And alongside with me, there is Jake. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. It's not our fault that this is starting slightly late. Unfortunately, the host and admin had a power cut just before invites were meant to go out, so this is the reason why we are slightly late tonight. But nevertheless, should be a very interesting race around a track that, personally, at least, I absolutely love.
Yeah, well, racing is always a bit difficult around here. Obviously, not that many overtaking opportunities, but of course, you have that long straight after turn four, and that should be the best opportunity for everyone to pass in this race. But we'll have to wait and see, obviously, what the drivers are going to be up to. I don't exactly know how the ERS management is, how hard it is around here. It's been quite a long time since I've last been at this track. Right now it looks dry in qualifying, but we could also see some rain. On the F1 games, Singapore is always pretty likely to have some rain here and there. It's a bit like Malaysia with a very, what's it called, humid weather? Is that the word?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, humid.
So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see for the race, but right now it is looking very dry. Obviously, in Brazil we had some rain in quali, which then basically stopped all the on-track running from 5 minutes in, and the first driver to be out tonight on the track is Void Beam in his Alpine. Also, a quick note, Evan has got his second or first match ball of the season, I'm not quite sure. Second?
I mean, yeah, he's in a super strong position to win the title. He literally only had his first DNF last week, so but yeah, he's in a very strong position to seal the title tonight, particularly given his nearest challenger, Raggy, is the one who's not here because of a power cut. So, I mean, obviously we have to kind of guess when it comes to what the weather's looking like up in the sky when it's a night race because you can't see the clouds, you can't see that, but with the fact that a lot of drivers are out there on mediums, that gives you the impression they're not expecting rain.
All right, let me quickly just check if this time all the audio on the stream works. Let's quickly check. Yes, it does work. Very good. That's what I wanted to hear. Yeah, so we're good to go. We didn't commentate for nothing like we did in Brazil for the first like 5 to 10 minutes. So luckily it is working right now. Let me just quickly make the in-game sound a bit louder because the engines are very, very quiet on my screen right now. I mean, the viewers obviously want to hear you as well, but a little bit of the cars would be nice. Yeah, I think that should be good for the sound. And Void Beam is going to be our first driver to set a lap this evening as well. The driver with the number 2. Around the first three corners he goes. Quite a nice flow through there, I think. Easily to invalidate though, especially through turn 2, just that little bit wide, and your lap time is invalid. That makes an issue. Now along the best overtaking opportunity down here into turn 6. This is right after the first sector ends, and then a pretty slow part, one of the slowest parts on the track around this right-hander here, and then the left-hander through here. But obviously, Jake, it's a street circuit, it's Singapore, it's a quick one as well. So do you reckon we'll see a couple of safety cars here tonight with the walls being that close?
I would be hugely shocked if we didn't. It's just one of those tracks that seems to attract chaos, and of course, with the barriers being so close, there isn't exactly a lot of runoff if cars do go off. So safety cars, I think, are almost inevitable. I would say we'd get at least 2 or 3 tonight, but the timing of us could have a huge say in the race, and I think almost one of the drivers' jobs around here is almost going to be to almost second guess when these safety cars are, because if you pit at the wrong time for a safety car, it could ruin your entire race. You're almost relying on a little bit of luck as well as skill if you want to get a good result here, I would say.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, a safety car can change quite a lot in a race. And if you get it at the wrong time just after you pitted, you have a big, big problem, as Void Beam sets our first lap of the evening with a 1:36.147. Can't really tell you how quick that lap time is. but we are going to see as soon as some other drivers come across the line. Then let me check. There's a second Alpine of Bremer coming around the final couple of corners now. So both Alpines are going to be the first cars to set their lap times. The French team around here. Around the final 2 corners he goes, and he goes slightly slower than his teammate. Just over 5/10 of a second. And we've got a McLaren. I think that is Evan. No, that is Zach actually. Coming across the line, he had invalidated as well. Sick boy didn't do a proper lap, and here's Brand, and he goes into P1 for the moment. All the lap times have been set on the medium so far, and the 1:35.6 is our new time to beat.
Might not be for too long now. Alberto goes into P2, a couple of attempts shy of that lap time. It's a really odd one at the moment. All the lap times set on the mediums as another medium tyre runner takes P3, the other Haas of Ramazan. And we've then got Ezra in the Aston Martin coming across the line, and he now goes up into 3rd, also into the 1:35. His lap time's pretty close so far, but we're yet to see what anyone on the soft tyres can really do. Just having a look now. Harmon is in the last sector on the softs, but he is invalidated, as did Wrench. So,
he's missing his front wing as well, Wrench.
So he has had a bit more than just an invalidation on his lap. He's had a few more issues than that. So he's back in the pits then, and we'll see if anyone can top Weiss Brand's time. He was very quick last week, if memory serves me correctly. So I would say that's a pretty good benchmark on the mediums, but I would also say that there's probably quite a big offset between the mediums and softs on one lap pace around here.
Yeah, well, the softs really don't go that long into the race. It's probably going to be a tyre to avoid in an actual stint, because it really doesn't give that much performance for such a long time. Ooh, and a bit of a wiggle that her 16 Rod had there out of the hairpin. The famous corner where Felipe Massa lost the car and at the same time overtook Bruno Senna, I think it was in 2012. And Singapore was our first ever night race in Formula 1 as her 16 Rod just slightly extends the track limits on the inside there and invalidates his lap. Ski 1 then around the same part. He stays in between the white lines. Yeah, Singapore was Formula 1's first ever night race, if I'm not completely mistaken. So it had its specialties. Nowadays, obviously, a night race isn't that special anymore to us Formula 1 fans. Obviously, with Bahrain, Jeddah, and as Ski 1 sets our new provisional pole time with a 35.4. Good stuff from the Williams driver there. Yeah, Jeddah, Abu Dhabi is half night race, half sunset race. But yeah, it's kind of lost its magic. Seeing the cars under the lights, it still looks pretty cool, not gonna lie, but you know, it isn't as special as it was back in the days. Interesting is that the Williams of Radius, he's on the soft tyre.
Yeah, it got someone finally out on the soft tyre doing a lap, and obviously his teammate's currently provisional pole. Yes, Singapore has, I suppose, it's lost its novelty in the sense of, you know, it used to be, it was the first night race. Obviously, it was quite a high-speed street track. Obviously, now we've got plenty of night races and plenty of very different street tracks. So, I suppose the one thing you can say about Singapore is it's still the ultimate endurance race. You know, you get 61 laps of this in real life, and it's a very, very long 2 hours for the drivers. And even at 50% here, we've still got 31 laps ahead of us. So it's going to be a long one, especially with safety cars most likely being involved in the race. So there's still that aspect of it. You know, it's going to be quite mentally draining for some of these drivers to keep their concentration for that long. Let's see what Trust Radia does on the soft tyres. And interestingly, it's only P4, which is slightly surprising given that he's really the first driver to do a proper lap on softs.
Yeah, we've got Void Beam now out on the soft as well. He's still on his out lap, but he's preparing himself for his second attempt in this qualifying session. Zach, at the same time, is also out on the soft. I think, actually, because you mentioned how long this race is, I think, if I'm correct, Singapore was the last... Oh, and Ezra does the exact same lap time as Ski One has done, but obviously he said it a lot later than Ski One has. And that means he is P2 behind the Williams driver. That is incredible, especially around such a long track, having the exact same lap time. So that shows us that the field is pretty close together, at least at the front right now. Pretty impressive seeing those two. Hopefully that in the end doesn't make the difference as Zach invalidates in the penultimate corners. But to finish my sentence, I think Singapore was actually the last race in Formula 1 that did finish early because of the 2-hour mark, because of the 2-hour rule, I think. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I definitely remember a Singapore race that had to be done on time, not distance. Not laps. And I think that was probably the one that it was. I've got a feeling, because I'm sure he did this last week as well. I'm pretty sure Zach has absolutely stacked his McLaren full of fuel and is doing some sort of race run, because his lap times, even before he invalidated, he still only did a 1:41. And he's been on a soft 4 laps now, and his car didn't exactly look that racy when I was on board of it. So I'm not really sure what that's all about, personally. Particularly as a soft probably isn't a particularly good race tyre. But yeah, that's clearly a tactic he's going with. Will it pay off? It wouldn't be what I would do, but I suppose each to their own.
Well, every driver has their own preferences. And if you just feel comfortable with that strategy or with that certain tyre, you are going to go for it. Because there's no use in running with the mediums if you're just not feeling comfortable in the car on that tyre. As then Voigt Beam comes around the final 2 corners then and is going to set a new fastest lap. No, he isn't. 56 thousandths of a second behind P1 on the soft compound. So remember, Ezra and Ski 1 only did their laps on the medium so far. And Voigt Beam was not able to beat those lap times, which were exactly the same, on a softer compound. Interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that. I really thought the soft tyres we were going to get into the 34s or something like that. One driver who is out on mediums and is on what looks like a particularly good lap is our championship leader, Ewan, coming around the final corner now. What's he going to do for his first representative lap? He's going to go to provisional pole, not by much, 18 thousandths of a second, which basically means 18 thousandths covers the top 3.
Yeah, that is pretty close, and let's just put P4 just into that then. Not even a tenth in between P1 and P4. So pretty close lap times here around this long street circuit. Her 16 Rod has just improved on his lap time, I think. It said his final sector was purple as well. Don't know if we can trust that particularly well, but I don't know. I'm just going to believe the game now, but we all know that, you know, the indicators of how good the sectors were are not always right. Sometimes it just says they were purple even though they were 0.3 off. But ooh, and a big slide for Ramazan right before the end of his lap, and I think that could have been quite an improvement. Yes, it still is an improvement, and I tell you what, that would have absolutely been provisional pole if it wasn't for his mistake in the second to last corner, or third to last corner actually. Last 2 corners are the double left-hander, and that would definitely have been provisional pole for the Haas guy. Sadly not with that mistake. Just P5 still. A good starting position, but obviously he's going to be frustrated with that mistake right at the end.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get our first glimpse into what somebody on the soft tyres could do there. The fact that, like you say, he's still at 5th, even though that was a huge mistake. I'd say that cost him probably in the region of about half a second. Was probably lost to that mistake. So I think we would have got into the low 35s if it wasn't for that, but as it stands right now, the top 3 are still all on mediums, which is quite astonishing with only 4 minutes of a session left. I'm following Harmon through the far sector. He's had a couple of goes on the soft tyres, and I think he's invalidated both times. So he's now on mediums, interestingly. He's decided to abandon the quicker tyre and go for the mediums. We'll see if this works any better for him as he goes around the final couple of corners. Let's see, it looks pretty decent. Yeah, P8, 35.6. It's he's only a couple of attempts off pole, but it's only good enough for 8th. So, yeah, both good and bad, depending how you look at it. But I think he'll be pretty happy with that lap. And I'm just waiting to see somebody on the softs finally put a lap together.
Yeah, I gotta say, I would say for us, it's pretty good to see someone only being 2.5 tenths off pole and still being in P8. It means the field is very bunched up and close together, and hopefully it's gonna be a good race for us then. And right now, the top 10 are only separated by about 0.3 of a second, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, we've got different tyre compounds in there, but still, it's pretty close. And now Ski 1 has fitted the soft tyre, and
Wow.
yes, Brand puts another fastest lap on the board on the medium tyre. He goes even quicker than Evan, and is 28 thousandths of a second ahead as Evan retires in the pit lane.
Yeah, he clearly didn't want pole position. Someone beat him. He's like, no, I'm done. I'm not gonna go out again. That's just astonishing. YS Brandy was only 30 thousandths up on his time after 2 sectors, and his previous lap time I think was a 35.6. So he found a lot of time in that final part of the lap there. I wasn't expecting him to go onto pole, but fair play, really hooked to that final sector.
Yeah,
Is there anybody out there on an improvement lap? Yeah, I was going to say, there's not. You'd think with 2 minutes to go, the track would be rammed, but there is a lot of drivers that are not going to be out there.
Yeah, I think most drivers just don't want to start a race on the soft compound. It's only going to be 3 people so far inside the top 10 who are going to be starting on the softs. Obviously, it's Ramazan, who is on an outlap. Let me quickly check on which tyre he is on. Ramazan is again out on fresh soft, so he goes for all or nothing. He knows he's not going to improve on that lap time on the medium compound. So he wants to go for that pole position. We saw his mistake. We know he has got the potential in himself for that pole position. But right now, P6 on the soft isn't that particularly good for the start of a race. Same goes for Void Beam, but he won't improve as he's already retired. Radiaz will just hope for someone behind him to beat his lap time, to be kicked out of the top 10, because he don't want to be starting in P10 on the soft tyre around this track.
Well, I was about to say, is Russell about to answer his prayers? Because he was on a better lap, but he has just completely backed out of his lap. So, and there was no reason for it from what I could see, so he just didn't want to be in the top 10. Alberto in P9 is on a much better first sector. I'm just going to see what his second sector is. Coming up to the mark now. Yeah, still 2.5 temps up, so it could be about to get even closer at the front. And Alberto is another one who's on the mediums, but he's finding pace out there, and this could be another driver to go into the 1 minute 35.4 mark.
Yeah, 2.5 tenths is huge in that very close field right now. It's only 25 seconds left on the clock in this qualifying session, and Alberto has got the potential to put his Haas car inside the top 4, top 5, or maybe even on the front row. He comes around the final 2 corners now to show us what he has got, and he moves up into provisional pole by 77 thousandths of a second. Great lap from the Haas, and let's see if his teammate can improve any more on that. He's on the softs, and he definitely does not want to get beaten by his teammate on a slower compound.
Yeah, and this is such a weird qualifying. Ramazan is the only driver who's on a lap as soon as the checkered flag comes out. So this is a Haas battle for pole position right here. And he's found some good time in the first sector. He's already in the top 10, so on the softs. So really, there's no reason for him to back out. He should just go for this. Pole position is his for the taking on these soft tyres if he can just make sure he hooks up the lap right. But again, so close, just 1/10 separating a top 5, and it gets even closer the further you go down. But Ramazan's not finding magical pace on this lap. It might not be enough, as crazy as that sounds.
Remember his mistake where he lost in the third to last corner, and he
invalidates! No.
Oh no, he is qualifying over. Let's see if Russell can improve anymore as he comes around the final couple of corners now. with the German flag on his helmet. He comes around the final two corners then. What is this going to be? Is this going to be a new pole time? No, it isn't. He puts his AlphaTauri on the second row of the grid. Good starting position on the medium tyre, and I think that is our qualifying session done. And we have got 2 cars inside the top 10 starting on the softs, and I'll tell you what, Ramazan is not going to be happy with his quali.
I think he just took out his frustration on the pit entry and absolutely slammed it into the wall. But wow, I mean, that's incredible, because we did get some drivers in the end who did go on the softs, but even then, they couldn't stick it anywhere near pole position. The best we got was Void Beam in 7th. Quite bizarre qualifying, really, if I had to sum it up. Ramazan will be kicking himself up, because like you say, with that mistake he had in the last sector last time, he didn't really need to push a track limit start hard, I don't think, to get pole position. It was kind of a risk he didn't need to take, so yeah, he'll be absolutely fuming, because he'll probably think that's a mistake he shouldn't have made.
Yeah, and in the end it's only going to be P8 while his teammate is set on pole position in on a different compound, on a slower compound, and I think the soft tire really makes a huge difference on this track with all the 90-degree corners. That extra grip really helps you.
And Russell's lap right at the end is also will be getting a lot of support, I think, from Trust Radia, because that means that has dumped him into 11th on the soft tyres, so he doesn't have to start on them anymore. So I think he'll be very happy. But Russell improved right at the end.
Yeah, that is your starting grid then for tonight. We've got Alberto with a great lap in the Haas on pole position right ahead of Yes Brand. Then we've got our championship leader, Evan. If he finishes in P3, that's not going to be the championship decided just yet. Russell takes P4 then on the medium compound. Ski 1 in P5 with the same lap time as Ezra. He just said it a couple of seconds earlier. Ezra then in P6 with that. Void Beam is going to be in P7. Ramazan in P8. He's going to be disappointed. Her 16 Rod only in P9. And Harmon rounds off the top 10 on the mediums. And that's our grid. And I think I'm curious to see what the soft runners are going to be like, because they have to push massively on their first stint. Obviously, it's not the preferable strategy around this track because the soft tire really doesn't go that long. But obviously, everyone has to go on the hards at some point in this race. It looks like we haven't got any rain so far. Maybe the rain comes into play at a later stage. We don't quite know. Obviously, we sadly don't have a weather report. But still, let's see what is going to happen. And let's keep an eye on those 2 guys inside the top 10 on the soft compound of tires, because they are going to be flying if they can really make use of their tires. And it's only 25 seconds now until the lights go out for our formation lap.
Yeah, they're going to have to, you get the feeling they're going to be feeling they need to get their elbows out at the start and really make the most of the soft tyres while they can. But they've got to channel that, because sometimes you can become almost too desperate to gain positions and end up either overdriving into somebody or just overdriving the car and making too many mistakes. You know, we saw a lot of invalidations of laps in qualifying, so another thing that they're going to have to be wary of is not picking up too many penalties in the race, because if there's a lot of safety cars, everyone will be bunched up, and having a few penalties could be the difference between winning a race and maybe finishing lower end of the top 10, maybe not even in the points at all.
Yeah, let's see what ties everyone outside the top 10 has gone for. Yeah, we see 3 people on the mediums, 3 people on the hard, and 4 people on the mediums. So different strategies. Obviously, the reverse strategy could be pretty good with a well-timed safety car for them. Because obviously when everyone is pitted and then the safety car comes out, you're going to be in a great position to fit your medium tyres, go for your final stint, and then you're going to be on the faster tyre right behind all those hard runners ahead of you. So we need to keep an eye on Wrench, Radias and Bremer in this race, because I think with a bit of luck they could be in the play for a really good position here tonight. But obviously we'll have to wait and see. Alberto then is going to line up his Haas on the first starting position on that grid, ahead of Yes Brand, Evan and Russell. Obviously it's not a long run down into turn 1 and it's not that hard of a braking zone. So let's see how this goes. I don't quite know if we'll see a clean start, because obviously the walls are very tight. In real life, we see some crashes here and there at the start of the Singapore Grand Prix. We all remember that painful 2017 race, especially I do, sadly. But let's see how this goes then. Cars coming around the final sector now, underneath the little bridge.
Yeah, and if Ewan is in the top position or two, it'll be another reason to keep an eye on Wrench as well, because he's probably the only one who potentially would be able to stop Ewan mathematically securing a title tonight. But right now he's not in a position to do so. He's going to need to gain positions. But as I've kind of said about Ewan, or Smalley as he used to be known all season, he's usually better in the races than he is in qualifying. So the fact that he's qualified P3 actually is one of his better qualifying. So we'll see if that translates to the race. But a lot to look out for here. Vastly different tyre selection to what we're maybe used to. And we'll see who can make the most of it over these 31 laps.
We're waiting for the lights to come on then in this race. Lights are about to come on, and we are up to 5 red lights, and we are underway here in Singapore. It seems to be a good start from Alberto in P1. Looks like the McLaren has had a great start, challenging Brad already into turn 2, and there's been a bit of contact, not a spin though from the Alfa Romeo driver. Great save he's done there. A lot of position changes going on in the background, but it's still better from Evan. Then Brad, Ezra is fighting with Russell round turn 4. Then they're going side by side, and then along that big straight, there's a crash in the background. I think that was a Williams spun round of Ski 1. Yes, it is, and they're still fighting up front here. Yellow flags in Sector 1 and Sector 2. They're still going side by side down into turn 6, and it looks like right now Ezra's got the upper hand. He's got the outside line then for turn 7, and it's going to be very close. A tight squeeze on the outside. The walls are obviously pretty close, and then Ezra has to back out of that, and Russell has kept his P4. Void Beam now pretty close to the rear end of Ezra on his soft tires. He obviously wants to make a good gain on the first lap with those fresher and quicker tires, but right now it hasn't been as much as many positions gained as he wanted. Only one place up. Harmon has made up 3 spots, and that was quite a solid start for Alberto there in P1. Jesper has lost a position to Evan right at the getaway, and Evan currently in a championship winning position.
Yeah, Wrench right at the back. I'm not sure what happened to him. He doesn't look to have any damage from what I can see. The only one with damage is Ski 1, and no real surprise after his Williams was slammed into the barriers on the exit of turn 5. So that's not what he would have wanted at all. The 2 soft tire runners haven't made the ground up that they maybe would have wanted. Void Beam at 1 place. But it was really the top 3 that managed to get away there while Russell and Ezra were fighting. And if I can't be honest, that was probably inches away from another crash as well. But Russell hanging on to 4th, and potentially Void Beam looking in a strong position here maybe to take P5 as he tries to make the most of his soft tyres.
Yeah, Void Beam definitely pretty close to that rear end of Ezra. Remember, no DRS enabled just yet on lap 2 here. He's going to have to wait another lap to use that advantage. But he's gaining on that straight, not really using any of his battery, and he's going to stick behind for now, as he's currently the closest guy to overtaking someone inside the top 10. But we've got a battle further down the field. That is Radiaz fighting Sick Boy. Obviously, he's on the slower compound on the hard tyre, and he has to make way for the Mercedes, who's had a great start, already gained 6 positions, and that looks like a pretty good thing for the Mercedes. Obviously gaining as many positions as you can. Monte also with a pretty good start. Same goes for Harman. Ramazan, like you've mentioned, pretty disappointing start to this race. He would have hoped for more gain with that tyre advantage he's had on that first lap, and the advantage is not going to get any bigger than it was on the first lap, if we're really honest. Those tyres are going to go down pretty quickly, as we can see the predicted pit stop strategy for the soft runners. I don't think it's going to be a 2-stop for those guys. Maybe, but I reckon they're just going to go for a pretty long first stint. Drag those tyres out as long as you can, and then put on the hards to then make just 1 pit stop in this race. Evan, in the meantime, still pretty close to Alberto. He can't really pull out that gap, and he wasn't able to get Evan out of his DRS window.
No, and not only was Ramazan's start not particularly good for him, he's now coming under a bit of pressure from Monty behind him as well on medium tyres, so just not finding the pace at this stage.
And there goes Evan. He tries to go for a move on lap 3 here, and there is the change of the lead. Our championship leader now up into first place. Slightly goes wide, but that is okay. And he is now in a prime position in this race to win the championship. He can now try and build up that gap to Alberto behind him. Yes, Brandt not too far away either. And if he can now break outside that 1 second window, it's going to be a very, very good situation for the McLaren driver. He's already putting a bit of a gap to the Haas behind him. So pretty good start for our championship leader. Gained 2 spots, now in the lead.
Yeah, Trust Radia further down is going to have to play the long game on his hard tyres. He's lost another place to Bo while that was happening up ahead. So Bo up to 11th, Radia down to 12th. But, I mean, the main goal for him will be just trying to stick with the medium tyre runners at this stage of the race. If he can do that, he will come into play later on. So it's still not too bad of a position that he's in, as long as he can keep reasonable speed while on those hard tyres. Just looking further up. Wow, well, Ewan, has got a second advantage now on Alberto, so already he's got out of a Haas car's DRS. He's absolutely flying.
Yeah, right now it's looking like it's got great pace, and there goes Monty then down the inside into turn 1 of the Haas of Ramazan, who has not had a particularly great race weekend here in Singapore so far. He messed up his own quali in the final couple of corners, and now he's even down a place, even though he's still got that tyre advantage. But maybe his tyres are just not in the condition what you'd like them to be. He's gaining again on the long straight here, but still not close enough to get back past the Red Bull ahead of him.
Yeah,
That's a spin from the Mercedes. All on his own. I think he just took a bit too much curb on the exit. And that is enough to send the black Mercedes spinning round. And that's him down 2 positions.
Yeah, I was on board of him. That was really strange. It just looked to me like he maybe just carried a bit too much apex speed, and the car just couldn't handle that amount of speed through the corner, and the rear end just absolutely went on him. So maybe he saw what was happening up ahead and wanted to try to take advantage of that, maybe get past Ramazan himself, and in his over-eagerness to do so, the car just went round on him. Wow, this lap has also seen some gaps open up. You've got Ezra right into the back of Russell, who was drifted away from the back of YS Brand. So has Russell made a mistake somewhere? Because I'm pretty certain that was not a gap that was there a few minutes ago.
Alberto looks to be pretty quick in the 3rd sector. He's opened a bit of a gap to Jesbrand behind him. So it should be enough to keep his 2nd spot for now, as Ewan just proceeds to open up that gap and to control that pace. Bo has also just passed Ramazan. Ramazan having an absolutely awful race so far on that first stint. He really doesn't like the soft tyre all too much, it looks like. Let's see if Ezra is going to be able to make a move on Russell. His rear lights are blinking, so I reckon he's not got many battery left. And yes, there goes Ezra cleanly around the outside. Pretty easy move for him. That DRS definitely helped him quite a lot. And Russell down a place, Ezra up into P4 with that. And maybe he can try and close that gap to Jesbrand ahead of him.
That qualifying error from Ramazan is going to be playing in his mind even more now, because it really hasn't worked out. And if he'd have been on pole, maybe his race would have been slightly different. Ezra looks pretty quick right now, I have to say. Russell has obviously used all his ERS in an attempt to steer with a leading group, and it just hasn't quite panned out for him. Unless Ramazan's pitting soon, I have a horrible feeling he's going to be feeling even worse in a minute or two, because I think even Radia on the hards looks like he may have a run on him pretty soon as well. So it's just going to go from bad to worse at the moment for him.
Yeah, Ramazan about to drop out, even outside the top 10, and strategically he's got a big disadvantage in comparison to all the others. Yes, Brand in the meantime still not quite able to get past that Haas in front of him of Alberto, even though he is a bit closer than he was on the previous lap. Not that much ERS left to play with. Void Beam is the first driver to pit. He was on the softs, but lap 6, I reckon he might go for a 2-stop then.
Ramazan in as well.
Yep. Well, Ramazan has to pit basically. Yeah, Void Beam definitely going on a 2-stop here. He's fitted the medium tyre, and I reckon Ramazan is going to do the same as soon as the tyre.
He does.
So definitely a 2-stop. Oh, and a big moment for Alberto. That is the chance for Jesper. But where can he go on this very, very tight track? There was not really much room for him, but Alberto looks like he is feeling the pressure from behind, and he opened up the door for Jesper in that situation, and he was a bit too cautious. Maybe he could have gone for it, but the braking zone was just not long enough to really dive it down the inside in that corner. But Alberto is really feeling the pressure at the moment, and there's been a spin at the background, I think. Is that Ski1? Yep, Ski1 has spun.
And he's got no front wing, so there's been some contact with the wall there, I would guess.
Yeah, nobody was around him, if I'm not mistaken. Monty, meanwhile, closing up to Harmon as well, inside the 1-second window. And there's a bit of a 3-car train for me now. Might even become a 4-car train if Russell can get into that 1-second DRS window of those cars ahead. But Ezra has caught up to the back of that train for P2. Looks like he's got quite some solid pace on those mediums in the race.
Yeah, he's caught up to them, and he also has about 20% more ERS to play with as well. So there's some serious pace in Ezra's Aston Martin.
Another yellow flag. That's once again for Ski1. Not
Gonna guess. Wouldn't be half surprised if that ends with a retirement in the pits in about a minute.
Yeah, well, he needs a lot of luck to get back into play here for some points. Yes, Brand still not quite close enough to make a move on Alberto. That's the position where he made his mistake. Monty has just gone past Harmon as well, up into P6. Good stop from the Red Bull there.
Yeah, quietly going about his races, Monty, on the mediums, but just starting to come into play a little bit. Making some good moves there, and now up into P6, and we'll see if he can chase after Russell. His Red Bull teammate Wrench also made a move on her 16 rod. So we're probably getting towards that point now where the hards aren't quite as bad as what they were, but Wrench has got quite a bit of a margin to make up if he really wants to get into the serious points, which as it stands he's going to need to do, because Ewan's leading the way, and as it stands would be champion.
Yeah, definitely controlling the pace here. Ewan at the moment 2.5 second gap, which is pretty comfortable, especially around this track. And Russell just not quite able to keep up that pace of those three ahead of him, just outside that 1 second window, which he needs for the DRS. But it's difficult to overtake, obviously, especially for Ezra, because, yes, Brand, it looks like he caught up quite quickly, so I reckon he's got a bit more pace, maybe, than those two guys ahead of him, but it's definitely pretty difficult for him to pass that Alfa Romeo, especially, because he's got the DRS, he's got the slipstream as well, so not really that much of an advantage as Ezra slightly loses the rear end out of turn 3 here. Don't know if that is the tyres wearing out already. And this Brand still not close enough, hasn't got that much ERS to play with either. And that 3-car train is going to be there for quite a bit, I reckon. At least until the pit window opens for some of those guys. And then obviously we come into that tactical game of when do you pit, when you go for the undercut, will you use that DRS that you have on the car ahead, or will you just, you know, pit 1 or 2 laps earlier? Obviously you need to come out in clean air then as well, otherwise you won't be making any gains on the car that you were behind before your pit stop.
Void Beam making moves on his 2-stopper, just got past her 16 rod and did the fastest lap as well about 30 seconds ago, so he's getting on with it on his set of mediums. He obviously needs to with the 2-stop strategy coming into play. Ski1 gets a penalty, which mean he could get another 10. It wouldn't make a difference at the moment. One that might make a difference, so is Harmon, who's picked up a 3-second time penalty and was running in P7. That's potentially a much more crucial time penalty, but it would be the first of many, I suspect. And we got a yellow flag, and Ski1 is out of the race, and that could very well be a safety car.
I think he just retired on track manually.
Okay, right. That's
Not exactly what you... Oh, Russell's in the pits. Russell's the first driver on the mediums to go into the pit lane. He might have realized he hasn't quite got the pace of those three ahead of him. So he might just go for the undercut and try and overtake those guys ahead due to a lap in clean air, maybe. It looks like he might have got some clean air. Her 16 rod should be ahead of him and should be far enough ahead of him so he doesn't get held up or too much.
oh, Zach's out now as well,
And that is
and
a
we do
safety
have a
car.
save.
Oh my goodness, that is awful for Russell. That was
Yep.
the worst possible timing, and it's brilliant for all those on mediums, I think, because the hard runners are not going to be able to pit. They could try and make a Lance Stroll strategy, you know, pitting, fitting a different tire compound and then going back onto the hard tire to then be able to make it to the end, but that was awful timing for Russell, and he's going to lose out massively due to that timing. I really feel for him right now.
Just looking at potential issues in the pits that we may have. Harmon, depending how it works out, Harmon might get held up slightly when he comes into pit, given that his teammate's not too far up the road. Well, depends really how a pit stops pan out. I actually think this is good news for Alberto in particular if he doesn't lose out, because I think YS Brandon Ezra would have been the perfect position to undercut him if they hadn't had to pit now. Although the drivers are not pitting.
Oh. Okay. Interesting. None of them do.
Harmon pits.
Harmon does. Well, I thought it was going to be the obvious choice to pit now.
Yeah.
Is there maybe some rain coming that we don't know about? But then it would surprise me that Russell has fitted the hard tire just a lap ago.
So yeah, it'd be good to know if we could have some insight on it. To be honest with you, because sort of playing guesswork. I mean, obviously, if it wasn't a night race, we could probably guess by the state of the clouds, but you can't see the clouds. Void Beam is in front of Harmon. I don't think this works out particularly well for Void Beam or Ramazan either, given the fact that they have another stop to make still as well.
Yeah, Radius just went from the hards onto the mediums.
Would the mediums get to the end from here? I don't think they do. Pushing it. Yeah.
I really don't think they do. It's going to be a big struggle at least, and I don't think there's going to be much left in the tyres by the end of the race.
Maybe with a few more safety cars, you might have half a chance.
Well,
but I'm absolutely shocked that the top 4 or 5 cars just opted not to pit. That's completely bizarre for me. I thought it was an absolute no-brainer.
Maybe they know more than we do, or maybe they just have a better tactical understanding, but I also thought it was going to be a no-brainer than to just dive into the pit lane, take your basically free pit stop, your one and only as well, and just go to the end. But it looks like most of the drivers just haven't decided to do so, and maybe that just brings Harmon back into play. Who knows? Because he has done exactly what we thought everyone would do, and has fitted the hard tire. And I'm sure he can go to the end from this point onwards.
Well, I guess now is the moment where we sort of find out, really, who are right, the drivers or the commentators. Harmon is kind of the one to keep an eye on here in relation to that, see if it does work out for him. There is the opportunity that it could be another safety car, of course, at some point, but nevertheless, we've got here... Oh, we've got Bramer coming into the pits as well, and he was on hards from the start, so I'm guessing he's going to switch to mediums and try and get us to the end. That's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a struggle for sure. And indeed, Bramer does fit the mediums, so he's going for the wait a minute, Russell is on mediums as well. Wait a minute, he started on mediums.
He just gone back onto mediums.
Oh right, he did mediums, put hards on, and then has come back onto the pits to put mediums on. I wonder if he obviously thinks mediums can make it at the end, and he doesn't want to be on the hards. But what that has done is he's massively affected his track position, because I don't think he would have been 13th otherwise.
You know, right now I'm actually thinking that there might actually be some rain coming in. You know, that would make the most sense, that so many people have decided to then go onto the mediums.
Yeah, they're trying to keep the mediums going until the rain comes. That's the only logical explanation that there is, really.
Yeah,
But
everything else just doesn't really make much sense to me, if I'm honest.
But these drivers are now putting their faith firmly in the hands of Jeff, which is not a scenario anyone really wants.
Nah, not really.
I mean, the odds are he's probably telling one driver they'll be ready in 5 minutes and another one it'll be 20 minutes. So it's really just a case now. These guys at the front are just going to be looking up to the heavens and hoping that the rain falls sooner rather than later, whereas Harmon on hards is going to be thinking, you know what, I hope it's bluffing, I hope it's not going to rain at all.
Well, it's difficult. I mean, we saw that in real life in Imola yesterday, that some teams were reporting we don't expect any rain within the next 20 minutes, and then others said we expect rain within the next 10. So, you know, everything could happen in this race now, but I wouldn't really get why those guys would go for the medium tire if there's no rain about to hit the track.
Another driver as well to mention is potentially Renge, because if what we suspect is rainfall is going to happen, the later it happens, the better it is for Renge, because those medium tyre runners in front of him, their tyres will start to go off, and his hards should be pretty fine. So Renge in 8th place hasn't made a pit stop yet. He's in a pretty good position as well, but at the same time, he's probably going to have some defending to do at the restart with the drivers behind him. So
okay, now I'm completely confused. Bremer has pitted and has put on his old hards.
I mean, regardless of whether that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it was he just, you know, let the AI do all the tire warm up, and the AI just decided to put him on his old hard compound, but that makes absolutely no sense. But there's the rain. There is that rain that we were talking about.
Wow, so now we know why nobody pitted. I was thinking, have these guys losing their minds? Nope, they were expecting rain, and it's exactly what they've got. But it will take a few laps before the track's ready for inters. It's such a long lap here as well. If you call it wrong as to when to pit, you could potentially have a very punishing 2 minutes ahead of you if you're on the wrong tyre. So you very much need to be in the right place at the right time to pit onto intermediates, because a lap round here on the wrong tyre is going to could cost you anywhere between 10, maybe even up to 10-15 seconds.
Yeah, it's now a pretty difficult situation for those guys, because obviously they haven't done any racing laps within the last 5 minutes, and now the rain has come, the conditions have changed, the grip levels have changed, and you're not really quite certain when it is time for intermediates. So I wonder if there's going to be someone that is taking a gamble and pitting earlier than all the others. But right now it's definitely not ready for intermediates. But I'm curious to see how long that will take, as now even controls all that pace from all those 14 drivers behind him. And he hasn't gone just yet. Still warming up his tires. He's leaving it very, very late. Maybe he's going to be accelerating out of the last corner. Nope, not quite. He faked it, and now he has gone. And now he is across the line. He's made a pretty solid restart. Pretty good restart, it looks like, from Monty, who is in the Red Bull and around the outside of Ezra. He goes. Ezra still has got the inside line, and there's been contact. And he's straight into the wall. Awful restart for Ezra, who's shown great pace so far. And I think that has just put his race out the window. Ramazan has had front wing damage and decided to just put the inters on. And there's huge chaos! And there's a big crash!
Oh my goodness me.
3 people out of this race. I don't know exactly what happened, if I'm honest, but that looked huge. Maybe we can find out more. Yeah, it looks like it's still too dry for the intermediates Ramazan. We are on board with him right now. He's just gonna go past the.
How on earth is that not a safety car?
Yeah, I think the game just has that cooldown of when another safety car can come out.
There we go.
Oh, there we have it. And that's alright, that just basically takes away any excitement of the pit stops, I think. Because I think now it really is a no-brainer to just dive into the pits and fit the intermediates.
Yeah, Mercedes may have to stack. They're probably one team that could, 16 Rod might lose out a bit. There's quite a gap between him and Wrench anyway, because everyone from 9th place downwards doesn't have a front wing by the looks of it. Oh, well, Radio and Ramazan do, sorry, but of course Wrench and Ezra don't. Looking back on that collision between Monte and Ezra, I don't know, you almost felt that Red Bull had the upper ground at that point, and 2 into 1 at that corner is difficult. It might have been wiser for Ezra to sort of give that one up, but I guess we'll never know now. But at least with the safety car, he won't lose out too much. These guys with damage can just get their front wings repaired, get the inters on, and be fine.
Void Beam stays out.
Oh, Void Beam stays out. That's an interesting decision. But I don't see how that can pay off. Ezra's got a penalty now for hitting Radius, so that's not particularly. He'll serve out his pit stop though, so that won't be too bad. Let's just see, sometimes in this game that drivers might not get the inters that they select, but everyone's got the tyres that they wanted. Void Beam probably maybe wants some airtime, maybe wants to lead the race, but long term I don't see that really paying off. The track already, actually, I would say looks quite wet.
Yeah, it looks inters ready at this stage, and there goes Ramazan then back into the top 10. Because obviously he's made the decision to change his front wing and at the same time just fit the intermediates already. Maybe, just maybe, Void Beam thinks the rain is going to stop immediately again. But really doesn't look like it. There's still a lot of rain falling down. Oh wow, the track looks so different from the onboard compared to the outside view. So shiny when you're on board with Void Beam right now, and if you go to the outside view, now it's shiny as well. Just a bit of a graphical glitch, I think.
We'll see now if there's any drivers out there that maybe favour these sort of conditions, or maybe drivers that might struggle. Sometimes the change of conditions can completely flip around who has got the pace and who hasn't. Ewan actually mentioned in the chat, I was having a look now, that he was the only driver in qualifying who only put one flying lap through his mediums. So that may go some ways to explaining why he had such a good pace compared to those around him at the start of the race, because he didn't put as much wear on his mediums in qualifying.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how Void Beam strategy now might pay off, but I just don't see a way how it will.
Is he going to pit at the end of his lap?
He's not.
No,
he's not. Okay. Maybe he actually thinks that the rain is going to stop within the next couple of laps and it's going to pay off to just stay out. The other question is, if that does happen, will his tires even make it to the end? I mean, right now the track is clearly wet and it's clearly intermediate conditions, but I don't even think the tyres will last that long till the end of this race, because he's already done 8 laps on them. So I don't see how he can really make it to the end without any problems.
Raddy's in the pits to serve his 5-second penalty. Makes sense, to be fair. I'm a little bit surprised Bo hasn't done the same thing, actually. He also has a penalty. Am I right in saying, I might be going crazy, but I'm pretty certain as well that YS Brand has overtaken Alberto during the pit stop phase?
Oh yeah, yes. You're right, sorry.
So that's now, well, provisionally P2 basically, because Void Beam is going to have no grip once we get going. The only thing I'm hoping with Void Beam is he doesn't take anyone else with him when he struggles. But yeah, so now YS Brand is in P2, and I'd say based on what we've seen, he probably had a little bit more pace than Alberto, so we'll see how he gets on. It's a shame that we've lost Ezra from that leading group, actually, because he looked to have some serious pace when it was dry, and it'd have been interesting to see how he could have done if he'd have been right up at the sharp end. But obviously, he had that collision with Monty. But we should be back underway maybe at the end of this. Like Radia's got a bit of ground to make up actually, so maybe not.
I think the longer this safety car stays out, the better it is for Void Beam. Because I reckon the only possible way he could have made that decision is that the rain is going to stop before the end of the race. And he probably thinks that is going to happen within the next couple of laps already, once again. So the longer this safety car stays out, the quicker it's gonna dry up again as soon as the safety car comes in. If the rain is not supposed to stop, then I don't see a reason why he's still out on those slicks, but that is the only possible scenario where I can see that making any kind of sense. It's a big risk and I don't think it's gonna work out, but he can prove me wrong.
Well, he's going to get another lap behind the safety car, which he'll be happy to do. If I was Bo right now, I'd be pitting, but he's not. I mean, maybe he doesn't believe he was at fault for the 5-second penalty he's got, and he's going to try and send it into the stewards afterwards, and go with that. He doesn't want to sacrifice track position. So I expect to see that 5-second penalty in the stewards, because there's no other reason why he wouldn't just want to get rid of that penalty now. Otherwise. And of course, he could probably get to the end now, so it's not like he'll have to serve it in a pit stop. As long as the if the conditions don't change, which either Void Beam thinks that's what's going to happen, or I really don't know. Other than that, because I mean, this is probably one of those rare circumstances where he's actually quite happy that the safety car's going slowly, because it's probably the speed that he can only go at the moment.
Yeah, without endangering his own car and his own suspension. But the rain doesn't show any signs of stopping just now. So I think he messed this one up.
This is probably not an ideal situation for a championship leader either. He's got someone in front of him on the wrong tyres at the restart. That's really not what he would want. So it's a potentially hazardous situation for Ewan at the restart, and I can't imagine he'd be taking too many risks against the Alpine, but we shall see. His nearest championship rival, Wrench, in P10 at the moment. I believe if things stay as they are now, he would be champion, Ewan. And that's even before he's got P1 back, which you would imagine he will do. And we should be back underway very shortly, because the safety car should be coming in, which it is.
I gotta say, it doesn't look that wet from the onboard, but the F1 games are just coded that way, that it doesn't look wet, but it just is. And it's like, sadly, it hasn't got a weather system that is that advanced, that it's different levels of how wet the track is in different parts of the track, sadly, which would definitely help Void Beam here. But sadly, the weather system is just all the same on every part of the track, I think.
Yeah, there's no nasty surprises waiting for a driver when they get to a particular corner, which is what we see in real life quite often. But we're getting ready to restart here, and Void Beam, well, I wouldn't be swerving my car this much at this stage. Gotta be honest, I'd be wanting to just step on it. Well, we'll see when Void Beam goes. I think he's about to go. Well, he attempted to go, but it didn't go very well. And he's already been absolutely swamped.
Yeah, and there's a big moment in the background, and Monty was involved in that. There was a bit of sparks flying. Someone had to take the escape route there out of turn one. That was the house of Alberto, who's lost the place then. And it's still quite hectic there in the background. Void Beam has dropped down to 10th in the meantime. Awful strategy call from him so far, if that rain doesn't stop immediately. But it looks like Alberto is still under pressure from Sick Boy. Does he attempt to move down the inside? No, he doesn't. Stays behind for now, and that is Ewan back into the race lead. Yes, Brand right behind him. And then we've got Monte, who's just gone past Alberto. Then Sick Boy, Ramazan, who's actually made a pretty good strategy call by pitting a lap earlier. You know, when he had to change his front wing, he decided to just put the mediums on right after the safety car came into the pits. Oh, and he made a mistake and goes wide. I think he lost a bit of his front wing with that.
Oh, Sick Boy down the inside of a hairpin. Oh, that's a lovely move in these conditions. Sick Boy past Alberto into fourth. That's a very unexpected overtaking spot, but he just had so much more grip than Alberto going over the bridge.
Yeah, Alberto seems to be struggling with these intermediate conditions so far. He's already lost 6 tenths as well to Sick Boy. He doesn't seem too confident in that Haas right now. Yes, Brand is not letting Ewan get away too much. He's still within that 1 second window. Obviously, no DRS now in the rain. But let's see if Ewan has got the pace to pull out such a gap once again. And it looks like his pace is quite solid. 8 tenths at the moment in between him and the Alfa Romeo driver behind.
Oh, Ramazan went wide through the turn.
Oh, yeah, and there goes Wrench then. Down the inside into turn 1. Looks like
and Ezra's taken advantage as well. No! It's gone wrong. Contact between a pair of them. Ezra looked to capitalise on the slow exit from Alberto, and it's gone wrong. Gone really wrong, and he's been spun around. I don't think he's got damage, but he's back down to 11th, and what looked like it could have been a really promising race for Ezra just seems to be going all wrong in recent laps.
Yeah, I gotta say, this one looked more like Ramazan's fault, who was trying to get back into P8 after 16 Rod passed him as well. But that looked more like Ramazan's fault, to be honest. I think he just slightly understeered into Ezra, and he got spun around 180, not even a 360 that gave him the opportunity to go in a straight line straight away again. But yeah, just a lot of bad luck today for Ezra. I think the pace was there. His pace looked very promising indeed, but there goes Reg then down the inside of Alberto as well in the hairpin. Alberto is struggling so much right now, and I think he has got some front wing damage from that understeer into the wall, which I saw when I was on board with him, and he's just dropping down the grid massively right now. He just doesn't have the pace in those conditions, and I reckon he has got some kind of damage. Yeah,
and he's
to
just
the inside. He's letting them through. That's a fair move from him, though. Gotta say.
Yeah, that would suggest he's probably coming into the pits at the end of his lap. It's not too visible the damage, but it's clearly affecting his car quite dramatically. And real shame actually. Both Hasses look pretty good at the restart. Looked in good positions. Ramazan's just hit the wall as well. So Alberto doesn't actually pit, but his teammate does because he has got damage. So both Hasses in the walls at the moment. They're two cars that are not enjoying these intermediate conditions.
Yeah, yes, Brian, in the meantime, is just not letting go of even. Still within that 1 second window, obviously no DRS. But still, he's within that 1 second window, and it looks like Ewan is just not that much faster in the intermediate conditions than he was in the dry.
No, it's all pretty close actually between the top four. They're all just sort of hovering around a second between each other. Obviously, you got a little gap back to Wrench, but that was mainly because Alberto was struggling with some damage, and that's when that gap opened up. But yeah, the top four are all very much still in contention for this race, and pressure's going to be on here on Ewan just to keep it all together because he's got some heavy pressure from behind, and if anything, maybe Weisbrand looking a little bit quicker at the moment. But they always say, of course, it's easier to be the chaser than the one who's being chased.
Yeah, obviously you can take a look at where the car ahead of you is gaining a bit on you. Maybe try and copy their lines here and there a little bit. Just adapt your driving style a little bit in certain corners. But yes, Brand seems to have some solid pace so far in those wet conditions. And he's not looking too slow. Right now he's on course for P2. Still, when we cross the line, it's 12 laps left in this race. And maybe when Ewan makes a mistake, he's got some potential for the race win.
I thought there'd be no more comments. I was checking the stream quickly. And someone asking who's second in the championship. Second is Raggy in the championship. Ecos Raggy, but he's not here tonight due to a power cut. So effectively we're talking about Wrench because he's third in the championship, and he's the only really one who can stop you. But Wrench is making up some good progress actually. I have to say, now up to P5, and I believe that may potentially be enough to keep the championship going. I'll work out the exact maths at the end because it could all be completely different in 11 laps time. You know what F1 is like. It can. You don't want to start second guessing how this race is going to end just yet. And we don't know, of course, if there's going to be any more changes to the weather. That could also play a part.
I wouldn't count Ezra out of that fight for some solid points just yet. He's just gone past Bo, and his pace seems to be pretty good. He's closing up to Alberto now. He's probably not going to put up that much of a fight. And then it's going to be 4 seconds to her 16 rod. But Ezra's pace has looked pretty good so far in this race. And I think the rain has stopped. Yes, the rain has stopped.
Right, okay, so that would maybe explain why Void Beam took that gamble to stay out. Obviously, it was just never going to pay off, and nice again from Alberto, just gets nicely out of the way.
Yeah, very sportsmanlike behaviour from him today.
Yeah, and I suspect he'll do the same for Bo. Yes, there you go, does the same for Bo as well, so yeah, it is. You know, he's probably thinking if the rain stops and they're going to be switching to dries again, Alberto's probably thinking I'll lose less time just sticking with the damage and then just getting my front wing changed when we go back to slicks. So that's probably his thinking now, I would suggest.
Yeah, the thing is that we don't quite know. Oh, and Reddy has just let her 16 rod go by. Interesting. Okay, her 16 rod now up into P6. The Williams decided to not put up any fight, but rather get out the way as if he's had a blue flag. We just don't know when and how quickly the track is going to dry up. In Singapore, the temperatures are obviously pretty high, but I kind of doubt that it is simulated in the F1 games like that. But it is looking like it's drying up quite quickly.
It is. Now, I was just looking actually at who out of the top 5 is currently lapping the quickest, and it is Wrench in 5th place. He is a couple of tenths quicker than Ewan up front, and he pulled a massive margin to Sick Boy in the last lap, who was nearly a second slower. So Wrench could be one to look out for here as he closes up to the back of Sick Boy, and he might not be happy, but it's drying up because his pace looks pretty good as Alberto pits for mediums. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, well, he had his front wing repaired as well. Okay, Ramazan goes onto the soft tyres, which might help him.
He's also had his front wing changed as well, so both Hassers getting their front wings changed and, well, taking a gamble. They weren't that confident in wet conditions, so maybe they've just thought, let's go for a gamble, put on the slicks and see what happens. We'll see how it goes, but it'll be interesting to see what the gap's like between Void Beam and Alberto on this lap, because they're pretty close on track, but obviously on completely different tyres.
16 Rod just got a penalty for exceeding track limits. Wrench closing up to Sick Boy at the moment. As soon as the track is dry enough, the stewards will enable the DRS, and it looks like Alberto doesn't have the pace just yet of those intermediate runners. Bit of a wiggly rear end there from Wrench. Out of the third to last corner.
Trust Radia's pitting. We've got another one who I think is making a move for slicks, but I think it's probably a lap too soon.
But
oh no, he's crashed into the pit entry! Oh dear, that's an absolute disaster.
And safety car. Oh, and I think we just once again got robbed of the excitement of the changeable conditions once again, because now everyone's just gonna go for the obvious choice to pit onto slicks, because as soon as the safety car comes in, it's gonna be dry enough, and then we don't have that topic of when to pit for dries anymore. That's a shame. It really is a shame.
Radio, I think, just said I had full damage in my car. Does that mean I mean, obviously after that crash, I don't know if it means before. But either way, I mean, he definitely has full damage now. A real shame for him, actually, and real shame for us that we haven't got to get this excitement of drivers pitting at the right time. I guess we're going to see everyone in now. I suppose there is one potential decision to make here. Do the softs become an option at this stage?
That is actually a good point. I think now it would actually make sense to go on the softs, because
Void Beam's pitted and gone for mediums, but then we got Ramazan on softs.
Well, the softs obviously heat up a lot better and a lot more quickly, and I think they will make it to the end. But actually, right now, it doesn't look like the track is drying that well at the moment. We're just going to wait for the pit stops now. Who's going to dive in? And I reckon there's actually going to be someone that is going to stay out. I don't think it's going to be Ewan. Ewan goes into the pit lane, as I've thought.
Yeah,
Yes,
all the
Brent
top
does the
three coming
same.
in.
Yes, Sick Boy pits
So
as
everyone's
well.
coming in.
Wrench, yeah. Her 16 rod might make sense for him to stay out. Nope, he pits as well, even though his teammate is pitting just ahead of it. Ewan goes on to the soft tire. See where he comes out. Yeah, easily in the lead. Easily in the lead. Let's see. Yes, Brand as well ahead of Monty.
Ooh, interestingly, Wrench goes for mediums. Everyone around him on the softs.
I think the softs are the only real choice you can go for now. Maybe at the end of that race then he might have a slight tire advantage, but I just think the softs have that much more grip. But I'm gonna use that safety car period for a quick for a quick chance to go to the toilet because I just drank a bit too much in the meantime of this race to not have my throat dry out. So it's gonna be your objective now to entertain the viewers. I'll be straight back.
No problem. What I'll do then actually is I'm going to try and work out what the championship standings will be as it stands. So obviously Ewan leading the race with 16 points. There will be a fastest lap point that becomes available, and obviously the fastest lap should get smashed with everyone on new tyres, and obviously a lot less fuel than when it was dry earlier. But 130. Wrench is currently in P5, which will be 6 points for him. So yeah, as it stands, Ewan will be the season 30 F7 champion if things stay as they are right now. And you have to say, it's looking pretty good for him. Not only is he in the lead, and he's looked very quick in the dry conditions. Wrench, you got to feel like he's going to struggle to make up that many places, given that he's on the medium tyre and everyone else around him on the soft. So, you know, it's not over till it's over. But right now, he'd say Ewan is looking in a pretty strong position to secure the title this evening, and with 3 races still to spare, that is hugely impressive. We've still got races to come in USA next week, and then we've got Italy, and we end the season at Bahrain in 3 weeks' time. But yeah, the championship looking very good to be sealed tonight for you, and McLaren as well in a very strong position in the constructors, despite Zach's only having 11 points, which he won't be adding to tonight because obviously he's quite an early DNF. We've got the 2 CRE boys, YS Brand and Monty, behind you, and what can they do about him at the restart? We've got one more lap of safety car conditions, it looks like. Ezra, of course, this is one driver I think we do need to keep an eye on, is Ezra. P7 at the moment, and we saw earlier on in dry conditions, he was seriously quick, and if there's one person I think who will have enjoyed this safety car coming out, it's him, because it's bunched the field together, and we saw earlier he can do some overtaking, so I suspect Ezra in P7 here could be one of the main guys to look out for on this restart.
Yeah, well, I'm back now, and I can see the track is fully dried up, which is quite a disappointment. Once again, like I said, the changeable conditions taken away from us due to a safety car. That's 2 out of 2 now, which is a bit disappointing, not gonna lie, but that's just how racing is sometimes. Luckily, yesterday in real life F1, we didn't have that, with taken away with a safety car, but it's gonna be I reckon 7-lap sprint then, because I think the safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap, and then the soft runners will have a big advantage, I think.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that Ewan, as it stands, will be champion, and you have to say that right now it's looking unlikely that will change because Ewan's looked really strong up front all race, and the guy who can stop him, Wrench, probably needs to get up to, well, actually needs to beat Ewan on track, and well, given the fact he's on mediums, if anything, I think Wrench may be looking behind him rather than in front.
Yeah, probably the wrong choice of tires, but we'll wait and see. Maybe, I don't know, some magical tire wear happens and or the softs will die out after 3 laps, which I don't think is going to happen, as the safety car will come in at the end of this lap, and Ewan is going to slow the field down as much as he can and try and get those tires heated up right before he sets the pace.
And we saw this earlier. I think he caught out I think it was Alberto at the time who was behind him. He caught him out very much so in the last restart that he did. So we're interested to see what sort of tricks he can pull this time to try and get to catch Weisbrand napping a little bit. He left it very, very late last time and almost went on the throttle at a place that no one would have expected. What will he do this time?
Still not going. Now he has, and now he has gone through the last 2 corners, and he's got quite a solid gap. He should be good to not get attacked from the cars behind. We see Monty and Weisbrand weaving along the straight to get their tires warmed up enough for this first green lap of racing. Green flag racing. My goodness, it's been a long race. It looks like nobody has made a particularly bad or great restart, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty boring straight here. No overtakes, it looks like. Only 11 runners left in this race, and the sprint has started for those final 7 laps.
Yeah, and back to dry conditions. It's we didn't exactly have many laps in the wet, really. And just looking here, we've got her 16 rod right up behind Wrench, as we kind of figured would happen. But no way through as of yet for any of these guys. And already Ewan has pulled a second advantage up front, so he's already potentially out of DRS threat here.
Yeah, right now, no DRS enabled, and Sick Boy has just picked up a penalty, and that's going to cost him dearly because the field is very much bunched up. Ewan has already pulled himself quite a good gap now. Monty still relatively close to the back of Weisbrand, but he rather has to look behind him towards Sick Boy, but now that has gone out the window as Sick Boy made a mistake and has got that penalty. So Wrench currently would sit in 4th place if the race would end right now. Ezra picks up a penalty, even though he was about to get back into this fight as he tries to pass her 16 rod into turn 1. Had a little look on the inside, but didn't dare to make a move without any help of DRS just yet.
Yeah, I don't think it's too much of a surprise that we're seeing a few penalties happen now. It's a latter stage of the race. Mental fatigue might be setting in for some of these guys, and we're just seeing a few more mistakes start to happen. Ezra looking in a strong position here to make a move on her 16 rod, but again, just not quite able to do so. There's still both of them stuck behind Wrench, and the top 3 at the moment looking pretty solid where they are, and of course with no penalties at the moment for any of them, they're looking pretty good to stay there. So I think the main battle at the moment is sort of Wrench trying desperately to hold on to P5.
Yeah, right now he's pretty safe, I would say, in P4 with that additional penalty that Sick Boy has got of 3 seconds, and those 2 guys behind him also with the penalty. Her 16 rod has to...
Oh, Spinner!
Oh,
Alberto!
Yeah, in the background you saw it.
No,
Ramazan was in last place anyway. He is even more now with his penalty outside the points. Looks like Ezra has got some solid pace again in the drive. We saw that on the first stint as well, until he had that incident, and now once again in the dry he looks to be pretty quick.
Yeah, just some things that happened in this race. I think he's not been too guilty for a lot of the things that have happened to him in this race. Obviously, other than that penalty he got last lap, but he's now stuck in a position where he can't really attack the car in front, because the car in front of him has DRS. On Wrench in front, Void Beam gets a penalty, but that actually won't make too much of a difference really for him. It might potentially stop him beating the likes of her 16 Rod and Ezra in front, but he's under no threat from behind. And again, I don't think her 16 Rod's getting a good enough run down the straight to really attack Wrench. It's actually pretty comfortable at the moment for Wrench to hold on to what will become 4th.
Alberto pretty close to the rear end of Bo after that straight on the mediums. Probably the wrong decision to pick that tyre, but he didn't bother to make another pit stop for a soft tyre, or maybe he just didn't have a fresh set of softs left. I'm not quite certain what his tyres were like. And he nearly hits the wall as he loses the back end once again, and he's half spun and lost the position to Void Beam now.
That's the identical place to which his teammate went fully round on the previous lap, so I don't know if Haas guys share setups, but clearly neither of them like in that particular corner, and both of them now fall into the rear of the field. But at least Alberto managed to gather the car up before it fully went round on him. Gap position's still very much been hard fought for here, down from 5th all the way down to 10th is still very, very close, and Sick Boy still looking quite close to the back of Monty, but that penalty's ultimately going to cost him, unless of course Monty picks up one as well. There's no pressure on Ewan up front. Not only has he built up a near 2-second lead, Weiersbrand's nearly out of VRS to boot as well, so it's not even like, you know, Weiersbrand's been saving his ERS to try and attack him. Ewan's pace is just too good.
Yeah, especially in the dry. In the wet, it was a bit closer in between those guys. About a second of a gap, and now it has already gone up to 2 seconds. 16 Rod is now getting closer and closer to that rear end of the Red Bull around the outside. He tries to go, has to leave the track though, in order to try and stay alongside. He hits him, and he's gone round.
Oh dear, that was all a little bit clumsy, to be honest. I think once he'd gone off the road, it was probably a good idea to just sort of give up on that overtake for a few more corners at least, but he stuck with it, and to be honest, the contact looked to me like it was pretty clumsy.
Yeah, I think he should have just gone up on that fight. Like you said, as soon as he left the track, there was basically a fight over for him, but he still tried desperately to get past, just however he can find a way, and that was just not it. I mean, he had some space on the inside, but he just braked too late, hit the car ahead, and spun round. Wrench did nothing wrong there in that situation, and I think that was just a bit too aggressive from her 16 Rod.
And he's going to lose out on some decent points due to that as well. Now fallen down to 10th for him. Oh, we've got yellow flag sector 3. In fact, he's out of the race. He's crashed.
Yep. And that is points for Ramazan then. Yep, in the wall. It's not going to be a safety car. I think Ezra has just lost a spot to Bo. And Bo just picked up a penalty. Alright, so now we might have a battle for P6 here. Ezra maybe didn't fight that position all too much because he thought Bo doesn't have a penalty and he's going to lose the spot anyway. But now Bo has picked up that penalty. And now that is actually a change of position.
And now Ezra's under pressure from Void Beam. Looking at the move around the outside, he's going for it. That's late on the brakes. Oh, how have they not made contact there? Void Beam had to run wide. He's kept the position. They're still alongside each other. Ezra's trying to fight it back, and he actually has done. Got some great traction there. And Alberto wants to join in as well, even though he doesn't actually need to because he hasn't got a penalty. And it's all getting a bit tight there, and that's allowed Bo to escape up the road. I wonder, is there a little bit of damage on Ezra's car or something? Because he doesn't look very quick anymore.
Might actually be the case as Void Beam tries to dive it down the inside, and he clips the wall on the inside, and Alberto says thank you very much, picks up another spot that he would have got anyway because of the penalties. And yeah, he's just sitting behind watching all that fighting ahead and just picking up the pieces then. And Wrench, don't ask me how, but he's close up massively to Sick Boy. Look at that, 3 10s now in between those two. He would have got the spot anyway when he crossed the line due to the penalties, but okay. He seems to be quite quick in the dry once again on his mediums, even though he's on the slower tyre. It now seems to be that little bit quicker.
And Void Beam picks up another penalty. A couple of mistakes from him, really. That penalty and obviously the clip on the inside of a wall into the hairpin. Wrench has just had an absolute... I mean, he's had a storming lap, or Sick Boy's made a mistake, or a bit of both, but either way, Wrench is in prime position to attack him here. And what may be a bigger issue for Sick Boy is that he might come to threat from Bo, and of course, they've both got 3 seconds worth of penalties. Wrench down the inside. I don't think Sick Boy's going to fight this too much, to be honest with you, and he doesn't. But he may be more keen to fight the position behind him with Bo.
Alberto also picks up a spot. Nice move around the outside cleanly against Ezra, who seems to be struggling a little bit. Might actually be some damage. on that Aston Martin. And like you've mentioned, there is Bo now right behind Sick Boy, both with equal amount of penalties. So let's see if there's actually going to be a change with not even 2 laps left, 1.5 laps I would rather say. And look at Wrench. Wrench is massively closing up to Monty ahead as well. In his team, yeah, he's catching up to his teammate quite nicely. Might this actually already be the spot where... Oh, there goes Ezra against Void Beam, and Void Beam has just made a beautiful move around the outside. Void Beam is trying to hold it around the outside, and it looks like he's got the position. Great stuff from the Alpine driver. He's at the outside for 2 corners in a row, and still managed to get the position. Great stuff from him, and Ezra has just lost another one.
I'm just having a look. Monte's pace looks like it's absolutely gone off a cliff here. Looks like he's really struggling. In fact, I think the soft... Do you know what I think it is? I think the soft tyres are starting to go off, you know, because Wrench's pace, in fact the pace of a lot of the soft tyre runners at the front is just starting to drop away, and I think that's what's playing into the hands of Wrench, and 3rd place might potentially be easy pickings, but we are on the last lap, so he's running out of opportunities to make the move, but you can see he's just clearly quicker at this stage.
Yeah, 8 tenths in between them, he's going to be way too far behind now.
And here comes Bo. Inside of Sick Boy. Can Sick Boy defend it? He doesn't really put up as much of a fight as I thought he might, but he might get him back on the exit. Bo a bit too deep into the corner. But Bo has the inside line. Oh, but again, doesn't... He gets the inside line, but then runs too deep on exit, and he's allowing Sick Boy to come back at him. And now Alberto is going to join in as well, as Sick Boy actually keeps the place. I feel like the position was there for a taking for Bo, but he just didn't get the exit right once he got his nose up the inside.
Let's take a look at Wrench. Now is probably the final opportunity for him to pass his teammate Monty. Nobody's got a penalty out of those two, but he's just not close enough to make that move on the final lap. Can he find any way past? He looks to be a lot quicker than his teammate at the moment. His teammate has got about the same amount of ERS left. The battery's pretty much dead for both Red Bulls, but it looks like Wrench has got more pace. But where on earth will he find a way past in this final stage of this race, in this final stage of this lap? In the final sector, there's usually no overtaking spot, but here comes Ewan around the final corner to take the race win in Singapore, and with that, the championship of F7. Monty holds on to P3 ahead of his teammate Wrench. Sick Boy then comes across the line, and 5th is going to drop down to 6th though, as Alberto, without any penalties, picks up P5. Then Bo just behind Sick Boy. And then we've got Void Beam in P8, and Ezra rounds the final 2 corners to pick up P9. Ramazan, the last finisher, and also picks up the final point of this race. But Wrench, if that race would have been 1 lap longer, he might have had that podium secured. But in the end, Monty managed to hold on to that. And it looks like the softs actually did go down in terms of where at the end. And there we've got not only our race winner, but also our championship winner. Eben tops the timesheets once again. And with that, he is crowned PSGL F7 of season 30.
You have to say, fully deserving championship. You could argue at times there's been people that maybe have had a touch more pace than him, but he's just been super consistent. 4 wins, 4 second places, a podium, 2 fourth places. He's only had 1 non-score all season, which was actually last week at Mexico. He's just been the class of the field. There's been others too. Raggy has had 4 wins as well, but littered next to all that is a lot of DNFs and no scores. YS Brand actually picks up the point fastest lap, but that won't have any say on the title race. Wrench did his best to keep it going for another race, and like you say, he would have for sure had 3rd place if it had been another lap. But yeah, Ewan a fully deserving champion, and that was, you've got to say, that was kind of a champion's drive tonight. It never really looked in doubt, you have to say.
Yeah, there you have your provisional finishing order, with all those penalties applied that were given out during the race. Obviously, there might be some changes afterwards due to stewards' decisions and findings. But that was it for today. That was your Singapore Grand Prix, and we now actually have a confirmed Drivers' Champion of Season 30 here in PSGL F7. It was pretty clear a couple of races ago already because of the consistency and the pace in combination from Avon, but still well deserved and a great drive today once again. Never really looked in doubt that race win after he conquered first place. He didn't even let anyone doubt his race victory, apart from maybe those couple of laps in the interconditions where the gap was only around a second, but after that he always managed to pull out that gap to quite a controlling amount and to quite a comfortable amount. And in the end, that's what wins you the championship, and that has happened today.
Yep, massively well done to him, and there's still potentially, obviously we've got 3 more races to go, still be a lot of fun. We've got a Constructors' battle, which actually, after tonight's results, does heat up a bit. Red Bull were the closest challengers to McLaren, and that 3rd and 4th place does strengthen their bid to potentially mount a late fight in that championship. So we'll see if Red Bull can overhaul McLaren in the Constructors, and who knows, we might get some different race winners in the next 3 weeks now that the shackles are off.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for watching. Sorry once again for the 20-minute delay because of the slight issues we had with setting up the lobby, but still, I'm a bit disappointed that the changeable conditions and the tyre strategies were a bit taken away from us due to the safety car periods, but still, it was fun commentating tonight, so make sure to tune in next week once again when we head to Kota. Is it Kota next week?
Yes, it is. We've got Austin and then Italy and Bahrain.
Yes, so make sure to be back with Jake and myself Monday 7 p.m. UK time as always. Jake, anything to add to what I've said?
No, all good. The FPS F1 race is probably going on right now, so if you're not already, be sure to tune into that. I'm pretty sure that'll still be happening over with Luke. So be sure to join him for that, and of course PC's on Thursday as well. So plenty of action still to come on PSGL over the course of this week, and we'll be back next Monday.
Yeah, so thank you all for watching, and we'll hopefully you tune in next week once again when we're heading to the circuit of the Americas. The championship is decided, but I'm pretty certain we're still going to get some good racing though. So thank you, Jake, for joining me once again tonight. It was a pleasure, and until then, goodbye and take care.